The mountain air tasted like pine and regret when I first saw the house. My house now, according to the lawyer's crisp envelope that had arrived 3 weeks after Marcus's funeral. I stood at the edge of the gravel driveway, my second-hand Honda looking pathetic against the backdrop of timber and stone that rose 3 stories into the overcast sky. The lawyer had called it a modest mountain property. Modest. The word felt obscene here, where floor-to-ceiling windows reflected clouds like mirrors, where the wraparound deck could have hosted my entire apartment building. Marcus had never mentioned this place. Not in our 2 years of marriage, not in the bitter 6 months of divorce proceedings, not even in the final phone call where he'd slurred apologies I couldn't accept. The inheritance made no sense. We'd ended badly, me with a restraining order, him with a cocaine habit that had turned my gentle husband into a stranger who put holes in walls. The key felt heavy in my palm, iron and old-fashioned despite the house's modern lines. My fingers trembled as I approached the front door, and I hated myself for it. 28 years old and still jumping at shadows, still checking over my shoulder, still poor enough that inheriting anything felt like a cosmic joke. The lock turned with a smooth click that seemed too loud in the mountain silence. Inside, the air smelled wrong. Not musty or abandoned, but lived in. Cedar and something darker, leather, maybe whiskey, definitely masculine. The entryway opened into a great room with vaulted ceilings and a stone fireplace that could have swallowed me whole. Everything was clean, dust-free. The leather couch still held the impression of someone sitting there recently. My pulse quickened. The lawyer had said the property had been empty for months. I moved deeper into the house, my sneakers silent on the polished hardwood. The kitchen gleamed with stainless steel and black granite. A coffee mug sat in the sink, white porcelain with a small crack along the rim. I touched it with one finger, dry, but not dusty. "You're early." The voice came from behind me, and I spun so fast my hip slammed into the counter. Pain shot through my side, but it was nothing compared to the shock of seeing him. He stood in the doorway I'd just passed, impossibly tall in the frame, dressed in black slacks and a charcoal shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. Dark hair, perfectly cut. A face that could have sold watches or cologne. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to calculate everything in a single glance. Young, maybe early 30s, but carrying himself with the kind of authority that made age irrelevant, and he was looking at me like he owned me. My voice came out strangled. "Who are you? This is my property." "Is it?" He moved into the kitchen with fluid grace, each step deliberate. No rushed movements, no aggression. Somehow that made it worse. Marcus's widow. Amelia, isn't it? The way he said my name, like he'd tasted it before, rolled it around, decided he liked the flavor, made my skin prickle. "How do you know my name?" I backed up until the counter pressed into my spine. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same question." He reached past me, close enough that I caught his scent. Bergamot and something smoky. Expensive cologne that probably cost more than my rent. He opened a cabinet and pulled down 2 glasses. "But I already know the answer. The lawyer sent you the key. Told you this was yours now. Didn't mention the complications." "What complications?" He poured amber liquid from a crystal decanter into both glasses, then slid one across the granite toward me. I didn't touch it. Marcus owed me. His voice was quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made the words more menacing. "Substantially. This house was collateral." "That's not—" "I inherited this legally. I have papers." "I'm sure you do." He lifted his glass, watching me over the rim. Marcus was very good at paperwork, less good at honoring his debts. The room suddenly felt too small, the mountain silence outside too vast. No neighbors, no witnesses, just me and this stranger who moved through my inherited house like he belonged here more than I did. "I don't know anything about Marcus's debts," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We were divorced. Whatever he owed you has nothing to do with me." "Doesn't it?" He set down his glass with a soft click. "You accepted the inheritance. That comes with responsibilities, his debts, his mistakes." He paused, and something flickered in his dark eyes. Something that might have been amusement or might have been threat. "His widow." "Ex-wife," I corrected sharply. "The paperwork says widow." He tilted his head slightly, studying me. Marcus died before the divorce was finalized. A technicality, perhaps, but an important one. Legally, you were still married. Legally, you inherit everything, including what he took from me. My mouth went dry. I don't have anything of yours, not yet. He moved closer, and I pressed harder against the counter, hating how small I felt, how trapped. He stopped just inside my personal space, close enough to touch, but he didn't. Just looked down at me with those calculating eyes. But you will. You're going to help me find it. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus stole something from me 3 months before he died. Something irreplaceable. Something worth more than this house. More than his pathetic life. His voice stayed quiet, conversational. But there was steel underneath. He hid it here. And you're going to help me look. And if I refuse? The question hung in the air between us. He smiled then, and it didn't reach his eyes. You won't. He reached out slowly, giving me time to flinch away, but I forced myself to stay still, and picked up a strand of my hair between his fingers. The touch was feather light, almost tender. You're alone here, Amelia. No family. No money. Working double shifts at that cafe downtown just to make rent on your studio apartment. Marcus left you nothing but debts in this house. You need this property. You need to sell it, start over, maybe finally finish that degree you abandoned. My blood turned to ice. How do you know? I know everything about you. He released my hair and stepped back, giving me space that somehow felt more threatening than his proximity. I know you take the bus because your car barely runs. I know you eat ramen 4 nights a week. I know you haven't spoken to your mother in 3 years because she blamed you for Marcus's problems. I know you're scared, tired, and desperate for a way out. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You've been watching me. I've been protecting my interests. He picked up his glass again, swirled the liquid. Marcus was a problem that solved itself. But what he took from me is still missing. You're the key to finding it. I told you I don't know anything. Then we'll figure it out together. He moved toward the entryway, then paused and looked back at me. I'm staying here until we do. The guest house out back. You can have the main residence. Consider it a courtesy. You can't just... I can. The steel in his voice hardened. This property may be in your name now. But Marcus signed contracts long before he died. Contracts that give me certain rights. Push back, and my lawyers will tie this up in court for years. You'll spend everything you don't have fighting a battle you can't win. Or... He paused, letting the word dangle. You can cooperate. Help me find what's mine. And when this is over, you walk away with the house, free and clear. Your fresh start. Your escape. I wanted to scream, to run, to call the police. But standing there in that too-clean kitchen, wearing my threadbare jacket and clearance rack jeans, I knew he was right. I had no money for lawyers, no family to help, no options. How do I know you'll keep your word? I asked quietly. Something shifted in his expression. Approval, maybe, or respect. You don't. But what choice do you have? None. I had no choice at all, and we both knew it. He walked to the front door, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. My name is Dante, by the way, since we'll be living together for a while. He pulled out a phone, one of several I could see in his pocket, and answered a call I hadn't heard ring. Yes. She's here. No, it's handled. Stay on the perimeter. The perimeter. The word sent chills down my spine. He ended the call and looked back at me one more time. Get settled, Amelia. Unpack whatever you brought. We start searching tomorrow. Then, almost as an afterthought, don't try to leave. My security team is very thorough. The door closed behind him with a definitive click, and I was alone in my inherited house that suddenly felt less like salvation and more like a cage with invisible bars. I looked down at my hands and realized they were shaking. Outside the window, I caught a glimpse of movement, a figure in a dark suit, walking the tree line, then another near the driveway. Dante hadn't been exaggerating about security. I was trapped on a mountain with a man who knew everything about me, who moved through shadows like he owned them, who spoke of debts and stolen property and consequences with the casual certainty of someone who'd never been told no. And somewhere in this house, hidden in cedar and stone and secrets, was something Marcus had died protecting. something Dante would kill to get back. I set my bag down on the leather couch and tried to stop shaking, tried to think, tried to find some way out of the trap I'd walked into the moment I'd turned that iron key in the lock. The mountain wind rattled the windows, and in the gathering dusk, the house's shadows grew longer, darker, hungry. I was alone with a beautiful monster, and I had nowhere left to run. I didn't sleep that first night. The master bedroom was too large, too exposed. Windows on 3 sides that turned the room into a fishbowl once darkness fell. I'd pulled the curtains closed, but it didn't help. Every creak of the house settling, every whisper of wind through the pines, every distant footstep of Dante's security team prowling the perimeter. It all felt like a countdown to something I couldn't name. I lay on top of the covers, fully dressed, my phone clutched in one hand like a talisman. But who would I call? The police. And tell them what? That a man was staying on property he claimed legal rights to? That I felt threatened by someone who'd only spoken to me in that quiet, measured tone? That he knew things about my life no stranger should know? By the time dawn bled gray light through the curtains, I'd made a decision. I would play along, help him search for whatever Marcus had stolen, and get out as fast as possible. Sell the house to the first buyer, take whatever money I could get, and disappear into a life where men like Dante couldn't find me. Simple, clean, survivable. The smell of coffee hit me the moment I opened the bedroom door. I followed it downstairs, my body tense, prepared for another confrontation. But the kitchen was empty, except for a French press on the counter, still warm, and a note written in sharp, precise handwriting. Drink. Eat. Meet me in the study at 9, 2nd floor, East Wing. D. I checked my phone. 8:47. The coffee was good. Too good. The kind that came from beans I could never afford. I poured a cup with shaking hands and opened the refrigerator, expecting it to be empty. Instead, I found it fully stocked. Fresh fruit, eggs, cream, butter, bread that smelled like it had been baked this morning. He'd had someone stock it, overnight. While I'd been lying awake in the darkness, Dante had been orchestrating, preparing, ensuring I'd have everything I needed. The thought should have been comforting. Instead, it made my skin crawl. I forced down a piece of toast that tasted like ash and climbed the stairs at 8:58. The study was exactly where he'd said it would be. A room I hadn't explored the night before. Dark wood panels, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk that looked antique and expensive. Dante stood at the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Italian. He'd changed clothes, dark jeans today, a black Henley that emphasized the lean muscle of his shoulders and arms. He glanced at me as I entered, gestured to a leather chair, and continued his conversation. I caught fragments. Warehouse. Shipment. Take care of it personally. The words confirmed what I'd already suspected. Whatever Dante was, legitimate businessman wasn't on the list. He ended the call and pocketed the phone. A different one than yesterday, I noticed. You look tired. I didn't sleep. Afraid I'd come through your window. A hint of amusement colored his voice. Should I be? He considered the question seriously, head tilted. No. When I come for you, Amelia, you'll invite me in. The certainty in his words, the casual arrogance, made heat flush my cheeks. I wouldn't hold your breath. We'll see. He moved to the desk and pulled out a thick folder. Marcus kept records. Not well, but enough. Before he died, he made several trips up here. Always alone, always brief. The last one was 2 days before his overdose. It wasn't... I stopped myself. Wasn't an overdose? Dante's dark eyes fixed on me. You think it was something else? I looked away. Marcus's death had been ruled accidental. Cocaine mixed with alcohol, cardiac arrest in his apartment. But there'd been things that didn't add up. The apartment had been too clean. Marcus was chaotic, messy. And he'd called me the night before, sober for the first time in months, saying he'd made a mistake and needed to fix it. I'd hung up on him. It doesn't matter, I said quietly. He's dead either way. It matters to me. Dante set the folder on the desk between us. Marcus was a courier, small time, mostly reliable. He moved packages for various clients, asked no questions, kept his mouth shut. Then 3 months ago, he got ambitious, thought he could steal from me and disappear. What did he take? Something that belongs to my family. Something with sentimental value that far exceeds its monetary worth." He paused. "And something that, in the wrong hands, could destroy everything I've built." I studied his face, looking for cracks in the facade. "You said you'd let me walk away when this is over." "I did. Why should I believe you? Because if I wanted you dead, Amelia, you'd already be gone." He said it so simply, so matter-of-factly, that it took a moment for the words to register. "You're useful alive. You knew Marcus. You understand how he thought. And whether you realize it or not, he left you clues. I haven't spoken to Marcus in almost a year. Yet he left you this house, in his will, drafted just 2 weeks before he died. Why?" The question hung between us. I had no answer. Dante opened the folder and spread photographs across the desk, the house from different angles, the property boundaries marked in red. Outbuildings I hadn't noticed yesterday. A shed, a garage, the guest house where Dante was staying. "We search systematically," he said. "Every room, every closet, every floorboard. Marcus hid something here. We're going to find it." We spent the next 6 hours tearing apart my inherited house. Dante was methodical, efficient, moving through spaces with the precision of someone who'd done this before. He checked behind picture frames, removed vent covers, tapped walls listening for hollow spaces. His security team, 3 men who never spoke, never smiled, just watched with dead eyes, brought equipment. Scanners, metal detectors, tools I couldn't name. I felt useless, following him from room to room, watching him dismantle my supposed inheritance piece by piece. "Here," he handed me a box from the hall closet. "Go through this. Look for anything unusual." The box contained Marcus's things. Old clothes, a watch, receipts, photos. My hands trembled as I sifted through the debris of his life. There was a picture of us on our wedding day. I looked so young, so hopeful. Marcus looked clean-cut, handsome, nothing like the hollow-eyed stranger he'd become. "You loved him." Dante's voice came from behind me, closer than I'd expected. "Once." I set the photo down. Before the drugs. Before everything fell apart. What happened? Started staying out all night. He changed. Coming home paranoid, aggressive. Money disappeared from our account. Then the drugs showed up. Then the men he owed money to. I looked up at Dante. "Men like you. I never sold Marcus drugs, but you used him. He was paid well for his services. What he did with the money was his choice." Dante crouched beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You think I corrupted him, made him into something he wasn't, didn't you?" "No, Amelia. I just gave him opportunities to reveal who he already was." His hand covered mine on the box, warm and steady. "People don't change. They just stop pretending." I pulled my hand away, pulse racing. "Is that what you tell yourself? To sleep at night?" "I sleep fine." He stood, towering over me again. "Take a break. You're shaking. I'm fine." "You're exhausted." He pulled out his phone, a third one, I counted, and sent a text. "Lunch will be here in 20 minutes. Go wash your face. Breathe." I wanted to argue, to prove I wasn't weak, wasn't affected by his proximity or his casual dominance, but my legs felt unsteady as I stood, and the room tilted slightly. Dante caught my elbow, steadying me. "When did you eat last?" "This morning. The toast." "One piece of toast." He guided me toward the stairs, his grip gentle but unyielding. "You're running on empty. That ends now. I don't need you to... I need you functional." Which means fed, rested, capable of thinking clearly. We reached the master bedroom and he released me. "Lunch. Then we continue." He left before I could respond, his footsteps fading down the hallway. I locked the bedroom door and leaned against it, my heart hammering. The way he'd touched me, not violent, not cruel, just possessive, like I was something he'd already decided belonged to him. It terrified me more than any threat, because part of me, some traitorous part I didn't want to acknowledge, had liked it. Lunch arrived exactly 20 minutes later. Italian food from a restaurant that definitely didn't deliver to the middle of nowhere. Dante had ordered enough for 4 people. We ate in the kitchen, the silence thick between us. Tell me about the night Marcus called you, he said finally. I set down my fork. How do you... Phone records. Tell me. I took a breath, steadying myself. He called around midnight. He sounded different, clear. Said he'd made a terrible mistake and needed to make it right. That he was sorry for everything. Then he asked me a strange question. Dante leaned forward. What question? He asked if I remembered the first place we talked about running away to, when we were young and stupid and thought we could escape everything. And where was that? I looked at Dante, at the intensity in his dark eyes, and felt something shift. This mattered. This was important. A cabin, I said slowly. His grandfather's cabin. Up here. Somewhere in these mountains. Marcus used to talk about it all the time. Said it was the only place he'd ever felt safe. Dante stood so abruptly his chair scraped against the floor. Show me the property maps. Now. We spread them across the kitchen table. The main house, the guest house, the garage, all marked clearly. But there, at the edge of the property line, almost hidden in the dense tree cover, was a small structure I'd missed before. A cabin. Dante was already moving, phone to his ear, barking orders in Italian. We go now, before it gets dark. It's barely 2. Now, Emilia. He grabbed a jacket from the hall closet and tossed me one. My men will sweep the perimeter first. Then we go in together. Why together? He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something beyond control in his eyes. Something that might have been need, because if it's there, if Marcus hid what I think he hid, I need to know you see it. I need you to understand exactly what your husband took from me. He opened the door, cold mountain air rushing in, and what it's going to cost to get it back. The walk through the woods felt endless. Dante's security team moved ahead of us, silent shadows checking sightlines and approach angles. Dante stayed close to me, one hand hovering near the small of my back. Not quite touching, but ready to grab me if I stumbled. The cabin appeared through the trees like something from a nightmare. Weathered wood, sagging porch, windows dark as dead eyes. One of Dante's men emerged and nodded. Clear. Dante pulled a gun from somewhere under his jacket, matte black, efficient, terrifying, and gestured for me to stay behind him. The cabin door hung open, broken lock dangling. Someone had been here, recently. We stepped inside, and the smell hit me immediately. Copper and decay, and something chemical that burned my nostrils. Dante cursed in Italian, low and vicious. In the center of the room, beneath a tarp that had been partially pulled away, were wooden crates. Dante moved to them, pried one open, and went very, very still. What is it? I whispered. He didn't answer, just reached into the crate and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. When he unfolded it, I saw the glint of metal, the curve of a necklace, antique, ornate, with a pendant that caught the dying light streaming through the dirty windows. Marcus didn't just steal money, Dante said quietly, his voice raw in a way I hadn't heard before. He's stolen my family's heritage. Every piece in here belonged to my grandmother, my mother, generations of women. He knew what they meant, knew I'd pay anything to get them back. His hand tightened on the necklace, knuckles white, and he hid them here, in this rotting cabin, like they were trash. I watched something dangerous move across Dante's face. Rage, yes, but underneath it, something that looked almost like grief. Then he turned to me, and his eyes burned with an intensity that stole my breath. Your husband, he said softly, was a dead man the moment he touched these. And I realized, standing in that cabin with stolen treasure between us, that Marcus's overdose might not have been an accident after all. The silence in the cabin pressed against my eardrums like water at depth. Dante stood motionless, that necklace dangling from his fingers, catching fragments of light that turned the stones from blue to black and back again. Did you kill him? The question escaped before I could stop it. Dante's eyes snapped to mine, sharp enough to cut. Would it matter if I had? Yes. My voice came out stronger than I felt. It would matter to me. He studied me for a long moment, then carefully rewrapped the necklace and placed it back in the crate. No, I didn't kill Marcus. He moved to another box, checking contents with methodical precision. But I would have, if he'd lived long enough for me to find him. The honesty was more chilling than any lie could have been. Someone else got to him first, Dante continued, his voice taking on that quiet, dangerous quality I was beginning to recognize. Someone who wanted these pieces badly enough to eliminate the middleman. Marcus was sloppy at the end, paranoid, using too much of his own product, making mistakes. He became a liability. To who? That's what I'm going to find out. He straightened, pulling out his phone, the fourth different one I'd seen him use. And you're going to help me. I've helped enough. You have what you wanted. We had a deal. The deal was you helped me find what Marcus took. He moved toward me, each step deliberate, and I backed up until my spine hit the cabin wall. But finding it isn't enough anymore. Someone else knew about this location. Someone else has been here. He braced one arm against the wall beside my head, leaning in close enough that I could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Which means someone else knew Marcus was working for me, knew what he stole. Knows about you. My mouth went dry. What are you talking about? You inherited this property 3 weeks ago. The lawyer sent you the information. You didn't come immediately. You waited, saved money, arranged time off work. Anyone watching you would know exactly when you'd arrive. His free hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jawline without quite touching. Someone wanted me to find these pieces. Wanted me here, distracted, looking in the wrong direction while they make their real move. That's paranoid. That's survival. He dropped his hand and stepped back, but the intensity in his gaze never wavered. In my world, Emilia, paranoia keeps you breathing, trust gets you buried. He turned to his security team, rattling off instructions in Italian. They began carefully loading the crates, handling each piece like the precious artifact it was. Dante made several calls, his voice low and urgent, switching between Italian and English with fluid ease. I watched him work, watched him command, and felt the trap close tighter around me. "We're moving you," he said, when he finally ended his calls. "Tonight, the main house isn't secure enough. Moving me where? Somewhere safe, somewhere no one will think to look." He gestured toward the door. "My men will pack your things. We leave in an hour. You can't just... I can, and I am." He moved close again, and this time there was something almost gentle in his expression. "Listen to me very carefully. If someone killed Marcus to cover their tracks, and if they know about you, then you're not safe here. You're not safe anywhere I'm not. This is insane. I should just go to the police and tell them what? That your ex-husband stole from a man you can't prove exists? That you're being threatened by someone with no criminal record who owns legitimate businesses across 3 states? He shook his head. "My lawyers would have you painted as mentally unstable before you finished giving your statement. And while you're sitting in some police station trying to convince skeptical cops that you're in danger, whoever killed Marcus would have all the time they need to get to you. So what? I just trust you? Let you take me somewhere isolated while your men pack up stolen jewelry? Not stolen. Recovered." His jaw tightened. "These pieces belong to my family. Marcus was the thief. I'm simply taking back what's mine. Like you're taking me?" The words hung between us, sharp and accusatory. Dante's expression shifted, something dark and possessive flickering across his features, before he controlled it. "You were mine the moment you turned that key in the lock," he said quietly. "You just didn't know it yet." The casual certainty in his voice, the absolute ownership implied in those words, should have terrified me. Should have sent me running despite the security team, despite the isolation, despite everything. Instead, my traitorous body responded with a flush of heat that had nothing to do with fear. He saw it. Of course he saw it. Those calculating eyes missed nothing. "1 hour," he repeated, his voice dropping lower. "Pack light. Bring anything you can't live without. Everything else stays." Then he walked out of the cabin, leaving me trembling against the wall, hating him and hating myself more for the way my pulse raced every time he came near. The next hour passed in a blur of controlled chaos. Dante's men moved through the main house with practiced efficiency, packing the jewelry into reinforced cases, sweeping for surveillance devices, checking sightlines and approach angles. I threw clothes into a duffel bag with shaking hands, my mind racing through impossible scenarios. I could run, steal one of the cars, drive down the mountain before anyone noticed. But Dante's security was everywhere. And even if I made it to the main road, where would I go? Back to my studio apartment where anyone could find me. To friends I hadn't spoken to in months because Marcus's chaos had consumed everything. I had nowhere to run, no one to call, no resources beyond the few $100s in my checking account. Dante had been right about that too. I was trapped by my own poverty, my own isolation, my own bad choices that had led me to Marcus in the first place. Ready? Dante appeared in the bedroom doorway. He'd changed again. Dark tactical pants, a fitted black shirt, a leather jacket that probably cost more than my car. He looked like he'd stepped out of a crime thriller, beautiful and dangerous and entirely too comfortable with weapons and violence. Do I have a choice? No. He took my duffel bag, slinging it over his shoulder like it weighed nothing. But I'll pretend you do, if it makes you feel better. You're not even going to lie to me. Pretend this is for my own good? It is for your own good, but I've never been good at pretending. He gestured toward the stairs, the cars waiting. The vehicle was exactly what I'd expected. A black SUV with tinted windows, reinforced panels, and enough luxury interior to make my entire apartment look like a cardboard box. 2 of Dante's men sat in the front seat, silent and alert. Dante guided me into the back, his hand on my lower back again in that proprietary way that made my skin prickle. He slid in beside me, close enough that his thigh pressed against mine in the confined space. Where are we going? I asked, as the SUV pulled away from the house. A place I own, secure, off the grid. He pulled out yet another phone and began typing. You'll be safe there while I handle the situation. Handle the situation. You mean find whoever killed Marcus? Among other things. He glanced at me, and something in his expression softened fractionally. You look terrified. I am terrified. You've kidnapped me. Protected you. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. He considered this, then reached over and took my hand. The gesture was so unexpected, so gentle compared to everything else, that I froze. His thumb traced circles on my palm, slow and hypnotic. I know you're scared, he said quietly. I know this isn't what you wanted, but I need you to trust that I'm very good at keeping what's mine safe. I'm not yours. Not yet. His grip tightened slightly, but you will be, Amelia, because you're starting to realize something important. What's that? That I'm the only thing standing between you and whoever killed Marcus. That I'm the only person in your life right now who tells you the truth, even when it's ugly. That you're safer with me than you've been in years. Even if it doesn't feel like it. He released my hand and settled back against the seat. And that you're tired of running, tired of being alone, tired of surviving on ramen and hope. Every word hit like a physical blow because every word was true. I hate you, I whispered. I know. He smiled, and it was the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. But you don't. Not really. You hate that I'm right. There's a difference. The drive took 2 hours, winding down the mountain and then back up through roads that became progressively narrower, more isolated. The sun set somewhere during the journey, painting the sky in bruised purples and dying reds. I watched the landscape disappear into darkness and felt like I was watching my old life fade with it. The house, Dante's house, appeared suddenly around a curve, not as large as the mountain property, but more fortified. Stone walls, security cameras visible at every corner, gates that looked like they could withstand a small army. Welcome home, Dante said, as the SUV pulled through the gates. This isn't my home. It is now. He opened the door and extended his hand. Come on, I'll show you your room. I ignored his hand and climbed out myself, immediately regretting it when my legs nearly buckled. Exhaustion hit me all at once. The sleepless night, the stress, the fear, everything catching up in a wave that made the world tilt. Dante caught me before I fell, lifting me into his arms with an ease that should have been impossible. Put me down, I protested weakly. No. He carried me toward the house, and I was too tired to fight. You're going to eat, shower, and sleep. In that order. And before you argue, remember that I always get what I want, arrogant bastard. Accurate bastard. He shouldered open the front door and carried me through a foyer that gleamed with marble and modern art. But I'm your arrogant bastard now, so you'd better get used to it. He took me upstairs to a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the valley below, now just darkness scattered with distant lights. A king-sized bed dominated the space, covered in white linens that looked impossibly soft. Dante set me down gently on the edge of the mattress. Bathroom's through there. I'll have food sent up in 15 minutes. Don't try to leave. The house is alarmed, and my men are stationed at every exit. Prison with nice sheets. How thoughtful. Protection with nice sheets. Learn the difference. He moved toward the door, then paused and looked back. Emilia? What? You asked earlier if I killed Marcus. His dark eyes held mine. I didn't. But I will kill whoever did, not for him. I couldn't care less about Marcus, but because they threatened what's mine. And I protect what's mine with extreme prejudice. The door closed behind him, and I heard the soft click of a lock engaging from the outside. I was alone in a beautiful room, in a fortified house, with a man who spoke of ownership like it was already settled fact, a man who made my pulse race with equal parts terror and something I refused to name. I looked down at my hand, where his thumb had traced those slow circles, and my skin still tingled from his touch. Outside the window, night had swallowed the valley completely, leaving nothing but darkness and the reflection of my own frightened face staring back at me. Somewhere out there, Marcus's killer was moving, planning, hunting, and inside these walls, Dante was hunting them back. I was caught between predators, and I had no idea which one would devour me first. The thought should have been terrifying. Instead, as I lay back on sheets that smelled like bergamot and smoke, I realized with sick certainty that part of me was already hoping it would be him. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee that didn't come from a cheap drip machine. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then memory crashed back. The cabin, the jewelry, Dante's hand on mine in the SUV. His declaration of ownership that should have repulsed me but instead left me feeling strangely anchored. The bedroom door stood open. I hadn't heard it unlock. I found clothes laid out on a chair near the bathroom. Designer jeans in exactly my size. A cashmere sweater softer than anything I'd ever owned. Undergarments still wrapped in tissue paper. Everything fit perfectly, because of course it did. Dante knew my size the same way he knew everything else about my life. The surveillance should have horrified me. Instead, as I pulled on clothes that actually fit instead of hanging loose from too many skipped meals, I felt something dangerously close to gratitude. I hated myself for it. Downstairs, I followed the coffee smell to a kitchen that belonged in an architectural magazine. All glass and steel and granite, with windows overlooking a valley that stretched for miles. Dante stood at the counter, phone pressed to his ear, dressed in dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked like he'd stepped out of an executive boardroom, except for the gun I could see holstered at his hip. He saw me and ended his call immediately. You slept. Not a question. A statement of fact, like he'd been monitoring me even unconscious. I was exhausted. I moved to the coffee pot, needing something to do with my hands. Nice prison you have here. It's not a prison if you're being kept safe. He pulled out a chair at the kitchen island. Sit. Breakfast will be ready in a minute. I can make my own. Sit. Emilia. The steel in his voice left no room for argument. I sat, and within moments, a woman appeared from somewhere in the house with a plate of eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, and pastries that looked like they'd been baked this morning. She set it in front of me without a word and disappeared again. You have staff, I said stupidly. I have people who ensure my life runs smoothly. Dante poured himself coffee and leaned against the counter, watching me with that intense focus that made me feel like a specimen under glass. Eat. I picked up a fork, my hand steadier than yesterday. What happens now? Now I find out who killed Marcus and who knew about the jewelry. He pulled out his phone. I'd lost count of which one, and showed me a photograph. Recognize him. The man in the photo was older, maybe 50s, with the kind of face that spoke of too many late nights and bad decisions. Something about him tickled at the edge of memory. I don't know. Maybe. I studied the image closer. Marcus had a lot of friends I never met. People he worked with. His name is Victor Rossi. He runs operations for the Calabrese family out of Chicago. Dante swiped to another photo, this one showing Victor in conversation with someone whose face was obscured. He was in the area 2 weeks ago, right around the time Marcus's lawyer would have sent you the inheritance papers. You think he killed Marcus? I think he was there when Marcus died. Whether he pulled the trigger himself or just watched. Dante shrugged, the gesture elegant and dismissive. Either way, he's involved. And he's coming for what's left. What's left? Dante's eyes locked on mine. You. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I don't understand, I said quietly. I'm nobody. I don't know anything. Marcus and I barely spoke for months before he died. But you inherited his property, his accounts, his records. Dante set down his phone and moved closer, pulling out the chair beside me. And more importantly, you're his widow, which means legally, you have claim to anything he possessed, including things Victor believes belong to him. Like what? Information, codes, account numbers. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture intimate and possessive. Marcus was sloppy, but he wasn't stupid. He would have kept insurance, proof of who hired him, what they wanted, where the money went. That information makes you valuable, and valuable things attract dangerous attention. My appetite vanished. I set down my fork with a trembling hand. So I'm bait. No. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my cheekbone. You're protected. There's a difference. Victor wants what Marcus had. I'm going to let him think he can get to it through you. And when he makes his move, the smile that crossed Dante's face was beautiful and terrible. I'll be waiting. You're using me. I'm keeping you alive. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I stopped breathing. Anyone else would have killed you already, Amelia, just to tie up loose ends. But I don't waste useful things. And you're very useful to me, because of what I might know, among other reasons. His dark eyes dropped to my mouth, and heat flooded through me. You're starting to understand how this works. What works? Power. Protection. The way we take care of what belongs to us. He stood abruptly, breaking the spell. I have meetings today. You'll stay here. My security team knows you're not to leave the grounds. The house is fully stocked. Help yourself to anything you need. There's a library on the second floor, a gym in the basement, a pool out back, a gilded cage, the most comfortable one you've ever been in. He picked up his jacket from where it hung over a chair. I'll be back tonight. We'll have dinner. You can ask me all the questions I see burning in those scared eyes. I'm not scared of you. Liar. He leaned down, his mouth so close to my ear I could feel his breath. But you're not scared enough. That's what makes you interesting. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in that beautiful kitchen with half-eaten breakfast and a pulse that wouldn't slow down. The day stretched endlessly. I explored the house because there was nothing else to do. Room after room of expensive furniture and original art, and the kind of quiet that came from thick walls and isolation. I found the library Dante had mentioned, shelves packed with books in multiple languages. First editions. Rare volumes. A collection that spoke of old money and careful curation. I pulled out a leather-bound copy of Dante's Inferno and almost laughed at the irony. Of course he'd have this. Of course he'd name himself after the poet who'd written about hell. I read until my eyes hurt, trying to lose myself in Italian poetry I could barely understand. But my mind kept drifting to Dante's hands on my face, his thumb on my lip, the casual way he'd claimed ownership like it was already decided. The sun was setting when I heard voices from downstairs, male, speaking rapid Italian. I moved to the top of the stairs and listened, catching fragments. Victor, warehouse, tomorrow night. Trap, then Dante's voice, quiet and deadly. She stays here. No one gets close to her. Anyone tries. You have permission to eliminate them. She. Me. He was talking about me. I retreated to the bedroom before anyone saw me eavesdropping, my heart hammering. Tomorrow night. Whatever was coming, it was happening soon. Dinner appeared on a tray at 7, more food than I could possibly eat, perfectly prepared. I picked at it while sitting on the bed, watching darkness swallow the valley below. Security lights dotted the perimeter, and occasionally I'd catch glimpses of Dante's men patrolling. He'd meant what he said about protection. This wasn't just a house, it was a fortress. Dante appeared in my doorway at 9, loosening his tie with one hand while scrolling through his phone with the other. He looked tired for the first time since I'd met him. Shadows under his eyes, tension in his shoulders. Long day? I asked before I could stop myself. Productive day. He pocketed his phone and studied me. You've been thinking too much. I can see it on your face. You told your men to kill anyone who gets close to me. You were listening. A hint of approval colored his voice. Good, you're learning to pay attention. Is Victor coming here? Not here, but soon. Dante moved into the room, shedding his jacket and tossing it over a chair. I'm moving up the timeline. Tomorrow night, we're going to give him what he wants. Which is? You. He saw my expression and held up a hand. Relax. You'll be wired, surrounded by my best men, and I'll be close enough to put a bullet in anyone who breathes wrong. But Victor needs to believe he's gotten to you. Needs to think he's won. And then what? Then I find out what he knows about Marcus's death. Find out who else is involved. Find out if there are more pieces of my family's history scattered across criminal networks. He sat on the edge of the bed, close enough to touch. And then I end him. The casual way he said it, like he was describing picking up dry cleaning, should have terrified me. Instead, I found myself asking, have you killed people before? Yes. No hesitation, no shame, just honesty, when necessary, when they threaten what's mine or betray my trust. I don't enjoy it if that's what you're asking, but I don't lose sleep over it either. And you think I can just be okay with that? With you? I think you already are. He reached out and took my hand, pulling me closer until I was sitting right beside him. I think you've been alone so long that having someone willing to burn the world down to keep you safe sounds less like a threat and more like a promise you've been waiting your whole life to hear. The words hit too close, cut too deep. Tears burned behind my eyes, and I looked away. Hey. His hand cupped my chin, gently turning my face back to his. I'm not judging you. I'm telling you I see you. The real you. Underneath all that fear and pride. The woman who stayed with Marcus even when he became a stranger. The woman who works herself to exhaustion just to survive. The woman who walked into that mountain house expecting salvation and found me instead. And what did you find? I whispered. Someone worth keeping. His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't felt fall. Someone who doesn't break easy. Someone who looks at me like I'm dangerous but doesn't run. Someone who makes me want things I stopped wanting years ago. Like what? Like this. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away, to say no. To remember that he was a criminal and I was his prisoner, and nothing about this was right or sane or safe. I didn't pull away. His mouth was warm on mine, gentle in a way that contradicted everything else about him. No force, no demand, just exploration. His hand slid into my hair, cradling my head while his lips moved against mine with devastating patience. I kissed him back because I was tired of being alone, tired of being scared, tired of pretending I didn't feel the pull between us. Because his words had stripped away every defense I'd built, and underneath them was just a woman who needed, someone to see her as worth protecting. When he finally pulled back, his dark eyes searched mine. Tell me to stop. I can't. Tell me you don't want this. I can't do that either. Amelia, something almost like pain crossed his face. If we do this, if I make you mine completely, there's no going back. I don't share. I don't let go. You become part of my world, my life, my every decision. You understand what that means? It means I stop running, stop being alone, stop pretending I can survive on my own when we both know I'm drowning. I touched his face, feeling the stubble along his jaw. It means I choose the devil I know over the one that killed Marcus. I'm not a devil. I'm worse. But his hands pulled me closer, settling me against him. Devils eventually let you go. I won't. Promise? The word came out broken, desperate, revealing everything I'd tried to hide. He heard it. Heard the plea underneath. The loneliness, the exhaustion, the need to finally stop fighting and let someone else carry the weight. I promise. He kissed me again, deeper this time, claiming me with mouth and hands, and the certainty that radiated from him. You're mine now, Emilia, mine to protect. Mine to keep. Mine to possess in every way that matters. Yours. I whispered against his lips, and felt the last of my resistance crumble. He laid me back on the white sheets, and covered my body with his. And outside the fortress walls, Marcus's killer was hunting. But inside, wrapped in Dante's arms, I finally stopped shaking. I woke wrapped in Dante's arms, sunlight painting gold across his sleeping face. He looked different like this, younger, softer. The deadly edge smoothed away by unconsciousness. His arm was heavy across my waist, possessive even in sleep. I studied the strong line of his jaw, the dark lashes against his cheeks, the small scar near his temple that I hadn't noticed before. A killer. A criminal. A man who'd turned me into his possession with calculated precision. And somehow, lying there in his bed with his scent on my skin and his warmth surrounding me, I felt safer than I had in years. His eyes opened, focusing on me immediately with the alertness of someone who never truly sleeps deeply. You're thinking too loud, just wondering what I've gotten myself into. Me. You've gotten into me. He pulled me closer, kissing my forehead with surprising tenderness. No regrets? Ask me after tonight. I traced the scar near his temple. What happened here? Knife fight. I was 19 and stupid. He caught my hand, pressed it to his lips. Still have the scar to remind me that arrogance gets you cut, and yet you're still arrogant. I learned to be better at it. He sat up, muscles shifting under skin, and reached for his phone on the nightstand. 3 messages appeared on the screen, and his expression hardened. Victor's moving faster than expected. We need to accelerate the timeline. Fear spiked through me. How fast? Tonight. He knows you're here. Probably has had surveillance on the property for days. Dante's jaw tightened, which means he's desperate. Desperate men make mistakes, and I'm going to exploit every single one. He climbed out of bed, already shifting back into the dangerous man who commanded empires. Watching him dress was like watching someone put on armor, each piece of clothing another layer of control, until the vulnerable man who'd held me was buried under the calculating predator. What do I need to do? I asked. Exactly what I tell you, when I tell you, without question. He turned to face me, and his eyes were hard. Lives depend on your obedience tonight, Emilia. Mine, yours, my men's. You hesitate, you question, you panic. People die, understand? I nodded, throat tight. Say it. I understand. Good. He moved to the closet and pulled out a dress I hadn't seen before. Deep, emerald green, elegant and expensive. Wear this. Do your hair, your makeup. You're going to look like someone worth taking. The day crawled by in agonizing slowness. Dante disappeared into his office with his security team, planning and coordinating with the precision of a general preparing for battle. I bathed, dressed, made myself beautiful with cosmetics that had appeared in the bathroom like everything else. Already there, already anticipated. The woman in the mirror looked like someone else. Someone polished and expensive, wearing a dress that hugged every curve and heels that made my legs look impossibly long. I barely recognized her. Dante found me standing there, staring at my reflection. He came up behind me, hands settling on my waist, and met my eyes in the mirror. Perfect. He kissed my neck, just below my ear. Victor won't be able to resist, and if something goes wrong, it won't. Absolute certainty. I've done this 100 times, Kara. I know every move, every angle, every possible outcome. You're safe because I say you're safe. That's not how the world works. It's how my world works. He turned me to face him, hands framing my face. Trust me. Just for tonight. Trust that I won't let anything happen to you. I looked into those dark eyes and found myself nodding. Okay. Okay. He kissed me once, hard and possessive. Let's go end this. The warehouse sat on the outskirts of the city, industrial and abandoned looking from the outside. Inside, Dante's men had transformed it into a trap. Lighting positioned just right, cameras hidden in shadows, weapons stashed at strategic points. He'll come in through the east entrance, Dante explained, showing me a tablet with the building's layout. You'll be here, in the main floor, sitting at this table, visible but not obviously bait. I'll be in the rafters with a sniper rifle. My men will be positioned here, here, and here. He pointed to locations around the perimeter. The moment Victor shows himself, the moment he reveals what he knows, I end this. You mean you kill him? Yes. No apology. No justification. Just fact. He killed Marcus to cover his tracks. He'll kill you for the same reason. I'm simply being more efficient about it. A tech appeared and began fitting me with a wire. Small, nearly invisible, tucked against my skin beneath the dress. Dante supervised every step, his hands occasionally brushing mine, steadying me when I trembled. Remember, he said quietly, you're scared but trying to hide it. You think you're meeting someone who can help you understand what Marcus was involved in. You don't know I'm here. You don't know this is a trap. You're just a frightened widow looking for answers. I don't have to act that part. I know. He kissed my forehead. That's what makes you perfect for this. They positioned me at a metal table in the center of the warehouse floor. A single light overhead creating a pool of illumination in the darkness. I could feel Dante's presence somewhere above me. Could sense his men in the shadows. But I'd never felt more alone. Minutes stretched into eternity. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Approaching from the east. Victor Rossi emerged from the darkness with 3 men flanking him. He looked exactly like his photo. Older, weathered, with eyes that had seen too much and cared too little. He smiled when he saw me, and it was the smile of a shark. Mrs. Moretti. His accent was thick, Eastern European underneath the American veneer. Thank you for agreeing to meet. You said you had information about my husband. I kept my voice steady, remembering Dante's instructions. About what he was involved in. Oh, I have information. Victor pulled out the chair across from me and sat, his men spreading out to watch the perimeter. Your husband was a thief. He stole from very powerful people. People who don't forget, who don't forgive. The jewelry, I said, the pieces he hid in the cabin. Victor's eyes sharpened. So you found them. Good. That makes this easier. Where are they now? Somewhere safe. Nothing is safe for me, Mrs. Moretti. He leaned forward, and I caught the smell of cigarettes and old violence. Marcus learned that lesson too late, but you're a smart girl. You can give me what I want, and I'll let you walk away. Start over somewhere new, forget any of this ever happened. And if I refuse, then you join your husband in the ground. He said it casually, like discussing the weather. He made a mistake, thinking he could hide from me. Thinking that pitiful mountain house would protect him. I found him easy enough, made his overdose look accidental enough. No one asked questions about a junkie dying alone in his apartment. My blood ran cold. You killed him. I eliminated a problem. Victor shrugged. Just like I'll eliminate you, unless you're smarter than he was. Now, the jewelry. Where is it? I don't have it. Then who does? I do. Dante's voice rang out from above, and Victor's head snapped up. But it was too late. Red laser dots appeared on Victor's chest, his forehead, his throat, 3 sniper rifles from 3 different angles. Victor's men reached for weapons, but Dante's security team emerged from the shadows faster. The warehouse exploded with movement, shouting, the sound of bodies hitting concrete, weapons being disarmed with brutal efficiency. Victor remained frozen, staring up at where Dante descended from the rafters with inhuman grace, rifle slung across his back, handgun drawn and pointed directly at Victor's head. Hello, Victor. Dante's voice was pleasant, almost friendly. Thank you for confessing to Marcus's murder. My lawyers will enjoy presenting that recording in court, along with the video footage from 6 different angles. Victor's face went white. Dante. I didn't know. The girl, she's nothing, she's mine. Dante moved to stand behind my chair, one hand settling on my shoulder. The touch was possessive, protective, absolute. Which means you just threatened my property, my future, my family. Family. Victor's eyes widened. You're protecting her? She's just some broke waitress, nothing special. Special enough that I'll paint these walls with your blood if you finish that sentence. Dante's grip on my shoulder tightened slightly. You killed Marcus to hide your involvement in stealing my family's jewelry. You thought you could eliminate the evidence and claim the pieces for yourself. But you made 2 mistakes, Victor. What mistakes? First, you underestimated how much I care about what's mine. Not just the jewelry, though I'll be taking that back along with interest for the disrespect. But this woman. My woman. You threatened her, which means you threatened me. And the second mistake? Victor asked, though he looked like he already knew the answer. You confessed to murder on camera, surrounded by witnesses. Dante smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression I'd ever seen. My lawyers will have this case wrapped up in 48 hours. You'll spend the rest of your miserable life in a federal prison, watching your empire crumble while I dismantle everything you've built. Your associates, your assets, your reputation, all of it. Gone. Victor lunged from his chair, reaching for a weapon I hadn't seen, but Dante was faster. A single shot rang out, and Victor collapsed back into the chair, clutching his shoulder and screaming. That was for Marcus, Dante said quietly. Not because I cared about him, but because his death brought complications I didn't need. And I hate complications. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Dante had planned this too, ensured the authorities would arrive at exactly the right moment, would find exactly what he wanted them to find. Take him, Dante ordered his men, who efficiently zip-tied Victor and his associates. And make sure the evidence package reaches Detective Morrison. He'll appreciate the gift. Then Dante turned to me, his expression softening as he helped me to my feet. It's over. You're safe now. I looked at Victor, bleeding and broken, at the police lights flashing through the warehouse windows, at Dante's men moving with military precision. You orchestrated everything from the beginning. From the moment Marcus died, yes. I knew someone had killed him. Knew they'd eventually come for you. I simply accelerated the timeline and controlled the variables. He cupped my face in his hands, including you. I should hate you for that, but you don't. Not a question. He knew. He'd always known. No, I admitted. I don't. The police flooded the warehouse, and Dante smoothly transitioned into the role of concerned citizen who'd helped solve a murder. He was charming, credible, presenting evidence with the polish of someone who'd done this before. The detective in charge, Morrison, apparently already on Dante's payroll, took everything with practiced efficiency. Within 2 hours, Victor was in custody, charged with murder, theft, and 6 other crimes. The jewelry was officially recovered and returned to its rightful owner, and I was escorted to Dante's waiting SUV, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm night, while he finalized details with the authorities. You okay? One of Dante's men asked, the first time any of them had spoken directly to me. I think so. Boss really cares about you. Never seen him like this before. The man smiled slightly. You're good for him. Makes him almost human. Before I could respond, Dante appeared and slid into the SUV beside me, pulling me against his chest. Let's go home. Home. The fortress that had been my prison had become something else. Sanctuary, refuge, the place where I belonged. The drive back was silent, Dante's arms around me, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. I should have been processing everything, the danger, the violence, the casual way he'd destroyed Victor, but all I could think about was how safe I felt, how right this was, how completely I'd surrendered to the dangerous man holding me. What happens now? I asked as we pulled through the security gates. Now. Dante tilted my chin up, his dark eyes meeting mine. Now I marry you. Make this official. Make sure everyone knows you're untouchable because you're mine. We sell the mountain house or keep it as a vacation property. Your choice. I set you up with whatever life you want. Finish your degree, open a business, do nothing but read in my library all day, whatever makes you happy. And in return, you stay. You're mine. You trust me to protect you, provide for you, build a life with you. His thumb brushed my lip. You let me love you the only way I know how. Obsessively, possessively, completely. That's not normal. Nothing about us is normal, Kara. Normal is what you had with Marcus. Safe, predictable, ultimately destructive. What I'm offering is dangerous, intense, and absolutely permanent. He leaned in, his mouth a breath away from mine, So tell me, do you want normal? Or do you want me? I thought about my studio apartment, my double shifts, my lonely nights and desperate budgets. I thought about Marcus and his broken promises, about Victor's cold eyes and casual violence. I thought about Dante's hands on my face, his absolute certainty, his promise to burn the world down to keep me safe. You, I whispered. I want you, then you have me. He kissed me deeply, sealing the promise. Forever. 3 months later, I stood in Dante's study, our study, wearing his grandmother's sapphire necklace and a wedding ring that felt surprisingly natural on my finger. The mountain house had sold for enough money to erase every debt Marcus had left me. I'd enrolled in online classes to finish my degree. Dante's world had become my world, dangerous but honest, violent but protective, everything out in the open instead of hidden behind lies. He found me there, looking at a photograph from our small wedding. Just us and a judge, simple and perfect. Regrets? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. None. I leaned back against him, feeling his strength, his certainty, his absolute commitment. Though you were right about one thing. Just one? You said I'd invite you in eventually. You were right. I'm always right. He turned me to face him, and his smile was genuine, warm, nothing like the dangerous mask he showed the world. But you made me work for it. I respect that. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. Stuck. He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Kara, I've been stuck on you since the moment you walked into that mountain house, scared and beautiful and absolutely perfect. Everything else was just me being patient while you figured out what I already knew. And what's that? That you were always mine, from the first moment, in every way that matters, forever. He kissed me there in the study, surrounded by books and stolen jewelry returned to its rightful place, in the fortress that had become our home. Outside, his security team patrolled. Victor rotted in prison. The world turned without touching us. And I, the broke waitress who'd inherited a dead man's secrets, had found something I'd stopped believing in: safety, protection, and a love so fierce it would destroy anyone who threatened it. Dante had been right about everything. He always was. But I'd been right too. Sometimes the devil you choose is better than the one hunting you. And sometimes, wrapped in dangerous arms that would never let go, you finally stop running and start living. The mountain wind couldn't reach us here. Nothing could. We were home.